So today I'm trying to pull off the craziest turns I can possibly do in Standard. Once it starts, it just keeps on going until we can turn everything sideways and destroy our opponent. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm going to combo with Mother Lode, Thunderous Debut, and a whole bunch of dinosaurs for the most epic turns you can imagine. We're going to end up using Etali and Ghalta with a load of dragons to get us over the line, all hefty creatures with huge stats and bigger mana values, but this deck is built to get us there quickly. So let's start at the beginning. How do we get to 7 and 8 mana spells? Well, we're going to ramp, and we're going to ramp hard. I've got Return from the Wilds and Glimpse the Core, both ramp us and are both key spells we want in our graveyard early. The tokens they make along the way can help us block or stay in the game because we got to get to turn 6. I'm also running a couple of Topiary Stompers too to get bodies on the board even if they can't initially block. We're running Atsushi's specifically as a roadblock and hopefully a way to get to 3 treasures, but at 6 mana we get to play my secret tech, and that's Capricious Hellraisers. These 6 drops can be cast cheaper if you have 9 or more cards in your graveyard, but that is not going to happen in our deck. What's important though is when they ETB, you get to cast one of those early ramp spells for free from your graveyard, ensuring that you can be on 7 or 8 mana for the following turn. The Hellraisers and Atsushis are both 4/4s too, with flying, so in themselves pretty powerful creatures that are going to help us win the game. At this point I want to mention we're running Roaming Throne. These aren't meant to help with the ramp, but in a pinch Naming Dragon would double up the triggers of both of these creatures if need be. I will say though that 90% of the time you're going to be naming Dinosaur when Roaming Throne ETBs. So why do we need all this mana? Well, we're going to play Hit the Mother Lode or use Thunderous Debut. Hit the Mother Lode is a 7-drop sorcery that says discover 10. If the mana value of the discover card is less than 10, create X tapped treasures where X is the difference. There is always a chance we discover into one of our cheap ramp spells, but in this case we'll have so much mana for the following turn we can pretty much play anything that we draw. The other main card I want to cast in this deck is Thunderous Debut. Bargain this 8-drop with one of your tokens to find Etali and Roaming Throne for those sweet extra ETB triggers. You can even find the Hellraisers too if you have Mother Lodes or Debuts in your graveyard to repeat all this nonsense when they ETB, and I'm running Ghalta just in case we have a hand of creatures that we want to play. You can even Legend Rule your Atsushis for some extra mana because we need 1 spare if possible, and this is where our last card we have in Bitter Reunion comes in handy. Hopefully we played it early to draw some cards, but now we can simply activate our reunions for 1 mana to give everything haste. We'll be flying for massive damage, attacking with trampling dinosaurs, and don't discount the toxic triggers on the transformed Etali. It is a triggered ability, so your Roaming Thrones can double the toxicity, or as you will see, quadruple the toxic damage to win literally out of nowhere if your opponent doesn't block correctly. What's cool too is if you use your reunions to discard your massive sorceries very early in your game, your Hellraisers on turn 6 could technically hit them as they ETB for a much faster combo win. I'm very excited about this deck, so let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Drop a like, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. Thank you all for the support that you give this channel, and I hope you enjoy some epic combo madness. Okay, on the draw, hand looks reasonable. I like the Bitter Reunion here, and we have some ways to ramp. So this would be an ideal time to discard any of those Hit the Mother Lodes or Debuts you might have in your hand, because the Hellraisers on turn 6 would cast them from your graveyard for free. And we'll just ditch a Stomper here. And we find a Etali and another land. So the Stompers are pretty nice early on to ramp, but we're ramping quite well here. They just don't block, which is my issue with this card. So opponent with a Selfless Samurai. So we might take a bit of damage, or not, as they play the Invasion Zendikar, and presumably they're going to attack that. And that is fine by me. It does gain lifelink, but 2 life for them, it shouldn't matter. So we find Atsushi, we will drop this. And they're going to have to find a way to deal with this now, because this is a bit of a roadblock for them. So the Hellraiser's not doing too much now if we cast them. We haven't been able to ramp with any of our sorceries. But Zoppendrel here is going to double the power of the Samurai. I wonder if they attack. They do. Alright, well, Atsushi here can block away and die and kill their creature. So this is pretty nice for us here. Going to create 3 treasures. And that is an Etali next turn. But we may want to cast the Roaming Throne first. I think that's the better play. We'll play this, and we're going to name Dinosaur. And we'll just sit tight. If they want to attack their invasion of Zendikar with this, it will be an 8-power creature, so be it. Opponent with a Vindicator, not a problem at all. Another invasion, okay, okay. So what can we do next turn? Well, we're going to have double triggers off the Etali, because I'm not blocking with my throne. But they don't attack anyway. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's play our mountain first so we don't eat our treasures. Etali is going to get double triggers with the Roaming Throne. Hits the opponent's Doomscar Warrior. And we hit the Mother Lode. Okay. What can we find? It's just a return from the wilds. Not a problem, but we'll make a token. I guess we'll ramp. So there's always a chance that we whiff, so we want to make sure we have as much mana for next turn as possible. We'll put the counter on the Etali here, and we find a Hellraiser and the opponent's Auger. And our Hellraiser is going to look into our graveyard and see Hit the Mother Lode. And this is why I love these Hellraisers. And we find a Thunderous Debut, and this is where we've got tokens available to bargain away. And I'm pretty sure we should be okay here. We'll play a Roaming Throne, I guess. And another Hellraiser, because Hellraiser is going to be able to cast this debut that we've just cast again from the graveyard for free. And as long as we keep one mana open, we have Bitter Reunion available to attack the opponent who is tapped out for lethal. We've just got to get enough power on the board. And kudos to the opponent here. They haven't scooped. So we'll take this as far as I can. Etali here is going to have 4 triggers. And we're just going to make as much creatures as possible. And this is the deck. So there's always a chance of whiffing. But when it does pop off, it really does pop off. And it can pretty much keep going and going as much as possible. If you ever need a spare mana, you can always find your Atsushis, or both of them, to Legend Rule one of them to get some treasures. And we'll let these Stompers resolve, we'll let our Etalis resolve, and see how we are before we turn sideways and smash the opponent. Another debut. Why not? I like to see what we can find off the opponent's deck with Etali. It's always nice to hit your opponents with their own creatures. Ghalta here to put both Hellraisers onto the battlefield. And like I said, I'm giving some plaudits here to our opponent for not throwing in the towel yet. Unless they don't see we have Bitter Reunion available. And this can keep going on for a while, but you do get diminishing returns after a while, as a lot of our creatures are legendary. So we'll just go through the triggers here. And finally, the opponent has a T-Rex. And serendipitous here, because we are going to attack the opponent with a load of dinosaurs, including their own dinosaur. And this should be lethal, even though they get to double their power of their creatures. And that is the deck. That's how it goes off. There's always jeopardy along the way, depending what we find with our RNG cards from debut and Hit the Mother Lode. But if it goes well, it really goes well. Alright, on the play, Snap Keep, Bitter Reunion on turn 2 is absolutely what we need. It is a combo piece we need on the battlefield. And we'll be playing that. And this time we can discard our Hit the Mother Lode. That'll be a turn 6 Mother Lode if we can get the Hellraiser down. So we find a forest. So return from the wilds into Roaming Throne and into one of these Etalis is our plan here. We'll make a food because that is sacrificial fodder for our Thunderous Debuts that we will invariably find later on. Opponent on Jund, it looks like. And a Dread Knight to draw a card and lose a life. So they're off to a slow start. And that suits us. And yeah, naming Roaming Throne here. Sorry, playing Roaming Throne, naming Dinosaur. Means that our Etalis here are going to hit hard. But in the meantime, we get to Hellraise next turn. And it is Glimpse the Court for the opponent. And we find a return from the wilds. Alright, well, we'll play our Capricious Hellraiser here. It's going to exile a card that we can play from our graveyard. And in this case, Hit the Mother Lode. And we find another Hellraiser. Excellent. And we can attack our opponent here for 4. So we've already got 12 damage on the board. 12 power on the board, sorry. What are they going to find? It's a tortoise. So it blocks on the ground, but it's not going to block these dragons. And untap land. So let's go into Etali here. Double triggers. Bitter Reunion. And the opponent's Dread Knight. Well, we will take that one. This has been a nice little game here against Jun so far. We can give everything haste, Ren and 7, and return from the world. So we have actually stopped our loop. We've kind of whiffed, but I'm pretty sure we've got more than enough power on the battlefield because we can just hit our Bitter Reunion, turn everything sideways, and that has got to be lethal. Let's see what our opponent takes. And yep, we do just enough damage there to take out the Jun deck. So not every opponent likes to give us massive turns, and a lot of times when we get this far, our opponents will scoop, especially if they see Bitter Reunion on the battlefield, a ton of dinosaurs. And there are other times where our opponents like to scoop, and that is when we drop an Etali into their own Breach the Multiverse. And I'm pretty sure that every card in their deck is something we're going to want to play, so this tends to happen quite a lot. And then on the flip side, we go up against a mono-red deck. Mono-red, our nemesis here. We just can't get things on the battlefield quick enough. It's definitely our worst matchup. We're definitely better up against control or mid-range decks. In fact, I feel pretty comfortable against any kind of control deck, because even if we play our Return from the Wild, make a 1-1 to block, they've invariably got a Lightning Strike or a Play with Fire in their hands. We just are a little bit too slow for this type of deck. Even though if we can find a Hellraiser or an Atsushi, we may be able to stabilize. But 9 times out of 10, our opponent is able to swamp us with damage before we get a chance to get to our big creatures. Not every deck is good against every deck, and Mono Red is definitely our worst matchup. Alright, on the draw. Bitter Reunion on turn 2 again. It's absolutely perfect for us. Need to find a green mana along the way. Opponent looks like they are on an Azorius deck. But our Bitter Reunion does hit the battlefield. And we'll discard a Ghalta. It's our most expensive card. And we do find a land, which is cool. We also find a Thunderous Debut. Not a card we generally want in our hand, but we might be able to discard it along the way. Opponent with Jace. You know what? If they are a mill deck, they might be able to discard our cards for us. But they opt to up their Jace to a 4 loyalty now. We'll make a food. We'll pop a land onto the battlefield tapped. We'll get a mountain on there because we need a few more mountains than forests in case we want to double Hellraise, especially if the opponent could mill us. And are they doing anything? Yes, they are. It's the Celestus. Okay. So their control. I do like our chances against control decks. I feel like it gives us the opportunity to get to our big spells pretty quickly. But we'll play Roaming Throne here. It resolves. Okay. There's definitely some stick there. So I'm pretty sure they've got something. And we named Dinosaur. So Etali is going to hit hard soon. We just need to find a window to cast our spells here. Opponent with Get Lost. They have to pay the ward for that. But we are going to create 2 map tokens. So I do like Get Lost as a card. However, I do feel sometimes the map tokens in the wrong deck are quite detrimental for you. I feel like it's better than the Fateful Absence though. That basically just gives your opponent a free card. But Hellraiser here is going to ramp us into a land, and we'll make a little 1-1 on the battlefield. Just to put some pressure on this Jace, which is on 6 loyalty already. So opponent is in the tank. His Sunset Revelry. Was half expecting a board wipe there. They up the loyalty on Jace to make our Hellraiser a 1-4. So I'm pretty sure they have probably got a counterspell in their hand. So we'll go with Roaming Throne now. And they resolves. We'll play our Hellraiser, or we'll explore onto our Hellraiser. And there's a Ghalta on top. We'll just leave that there. I want to be playing the Glimpse the Core anyway. And Ghalta, I'd rather in the deck. So we'll attack down Jace just so that it can't almost kill us in one turn. And we'll play Glimpse the Core here, and we'll just keep ramping, and hopefully the opponent will tap out soon. Well, they negate our Glimpse. That's fine by me. At least it's not the debut that they're negating. So a much grindier game here for our deck. But we've managed to get up to the mana required to basically cast any spell that we draw. We really need them to tap out. But they do deluge, so they're going to refill. And yeah, they pass the turn with 2 mana open. So we could Etali now. I'm just so certain they're going to counter it. I'll go for the Hellraiser, which only costs 3. And another Glimpse. More mana for us. I'm not sure if that was a little bit passive for us. We could have played the Etali, as it looks like the Hellraiser resolved pretty easily. And maybe we would have won the game if we had played Etali there. Especially as we have Bitter Reunion. But the opponent's probably got not many creatures in their deck that we would want to take anyway. Just some Planeswalkers. And here is Sunfall. So Sunfall's going to clear the board. But I do like the fact we've still got a debut in our hand and an Etali. So I still like where we are. Opponent. Opponent is animating their Incubate token, which means they're tapped out. Alright, well, let's go for our debut. Our Etali would only hit once, as there's no Roaming Throne on the battlefield. Debut finds Etali and Roaming Throne, exactly the 2 cards we want. We'll name Dinosaur. Can we find a way to win this game now? A Sunset Revelry for our opponent, and a Hit the Mother Lode off of our deck. They may not have wanted to tap out. I still would have done this anyway, but I guess if they don't have a counterspell in their hand, why not? We find another debut, and we've got some map tokens here that we can sacrifice into our flyers. Just trying to get some power onto the board now. And our Hellraiser does find a Hit the Mother Lode. And Return from the Wilds. Okay, make another 1/1 which can attack this turn. And we're just going to let all these triggers resolve. Turn on our Bitter Reunion and attack our opponent. So we bided our time. I feel like that was the right thing to do there. We get a Wandering Emperor. We can make a 2/2 here, or we can just up it onto our Etali. I don't think it matters. We've got more than enough damage going through this turn. And this should be a nice little victory. We tend to end our loops sometimes just in the nick of time. Opponent does have a 6/6 on the battlefield, but it's never going to be enough to block our team. They can put that behind the 4/4 if they want, but they're still going to be taking lethal damage. And yeah, we got there in the end. Alright, on the play. And I'm going to keep this hand. We have 4 mana. We have 3 7-mana spells. But surely we can find some lower cost spells along the way. Well, there's one. Return from the Wilds. It's going to make us a 1/1. Going to be able to allow us to ramp away. They play up the Beanstalk, so you've got to expect a ramp style deck. And I'm absolutely fine with that kind of deck. It's slow enough for us. I think I'm just going to make a 1/1. Might want to make a food there, in case they've got a Virtue of Persistence. Now they have a target to use, but opponent with a Flesh Gorger, which we can't block anyway. We find a Thunderous Debut. Okay. Well, let's go for the Roaming Throne here, and we'll name Dinosaur. Play a land. And yeah, we're just going to sit here, hold tight, see if the opponent can beat us before we get a chance to beat them down with our Hit the Mother Lodes and our Etali. In fact, all we really need to be doing now is hitting land drops. Return from the Wilds is nice here. We'll make another 1/1. We can start blocking this Flesh Gorger if we need to, so they can't flip this battle that they've got. No attacks. And I guess we're just looking for a land next turn, and we should be golden. Fingers crossed anyway. If those RNG gods want to give us anything here, then we'll be able to find something special off the top of both our decks from Etali. Opponent with Sheoldred, not going to be too much of an issue. No land, but a Hellraiser is enough for us to be able to cast one of these sorceries from our graveyard here. And we'll play Return from the Wilds to get a land. And this time I'm going to make a food for the debut, in a bit in case the opponent does play a Sunfall. So we're getting there slowly by slowly. Terra Sunder on our 4/4. Okay. And it is Duress. Sure. They dress away one of our Mother Lodes. And they go to attack their invasion here. Well, we can just block that with a 1/1. So, kind of glad we made these 1/1s earlier on in the game. And we draw a Ghalta, okay, an 8-drop spell. So we have a choice here whether we want to play the Etali or hit the Mother Lode. I think I'm going for the Mother Lode. At least this means next turn we have some big plays if we don't find anything decent. We did find a Bitter Reunion, which is what we want for later on in the game. And we'll discard our debut here, which can be cast by any Hellraiser that we find. So can we survive till next turn? We're going to have a lot of mana to play with. We've got our Haste Enabler. Brotherhood's End, though, deals with all of our treasure. Okay. I didn't expect that. Maybe I should have expected that. They did have to take out their Flesh Gorger. Terra Sunder our Bitter Reunion here. So opponent has all the answers to our deck here. This is a good game, as they attack us with one of their Stompers. Okay. We go down to 5. I think they should have attacked us with Shouldered as well. I definitely wouldn't have blocked. But we have to play our Ghalta here. And we can pop Etali onto the battlefield. Double triggers, so we'll find another Roaming Throne. We'll take the opponent's Scrap Gorger here. And unfortunately we don't have a Bitter Reunion available on the battlefield. So we probably can't turn everything sideways this turn. We grab the opponent's Liliana and another Roaming Throne for us. We'll definitely make them sacrifice a creature. Surely they sacrifice a Stomper. And we've just got to be a bit careful on 5 life with Shouldered on the battlefield. They're on 26 life now. And a Flesh Gorger, okay. That would gain them 7. Has lifelink. Okay, well, what can we find off the top? It's just a land. Right. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try something which I think I can do. And we'll see if the opponent understands how this interaction works. I haven't tested this myself, so this is the first time I'm going to be trying it. Just make sure we've got enough mana on the battlefield to flip Etali. So Etali now... Okay, I guess we get to eat off their graveyard. We'll just take that Flesh Gorger in case they are playing a combo deck. Etali an 11/11 with the triggered effect that when it deals combat damage to the opponent, they receive that many poison tokens as well. But that is a triggered effect, and Roaming Throne is going to quadruple that effect. They only block with 4 toughness, so they take 28 poison to die.